Okay, February 7th, Newcastle and Damariscotta Broadband Committee. We've only got Newcastle people here today. 3:05 p.m. We just got the Tidewater documents as far as financial info and some high-level breakdown. We'll go over that. I'll share my screen with you guys so you can either pull it up on your computers or just send it to you in an email, and I can also. Does everybody have a copy?
First,
the PDF. It's the same thing. He's just got it in a PowerPoint and a PDF format.
got it.
But yeah, I'll share the screen. Does anybody want me to put it in the chat or?
No, I've got a copy of it here.
Oh, already got the print off. Love it.
Yeah.
Cool beans.
The question is, did he print it in color or not?
I printed a couple of pages color, the important ones.
Okay, everybody's got my screen.
Yes.
Cool beans. Cover page. We've got 103 unserved addresses for Damariscotta and 99 for Newcastle. According to this, I think later in the literature, it might say 97 for Newcastle. But that might also add two. They probably separated that. It was probably the two that are in the consolidated area for a total of 99. I've just realized for that as well. Don't know if there's any other important points to get from the first page here.
Hey, Evan, is this their presentation? Is this what they're going to present?
Yeah, there's I forwarded the email. There's this PDF version, which is easier to print out. And then Alan's going to use the PowerPoint version, but it's the same data.
All right.
Two different files. There's still some inaccuracies in these maps, and I can definitely speak to the Damariscotta side, but I'm not sure about some of the Newcastle ones. But one that I indicated as a group of people that are unserved is this area that I'm using my mouse to circle on Beach Lane. I think there's 8 that I included in a list to the state that Charter gave an estimate for, that nobody down there had cable that they've identified. And the only other critique I would have is this section right here in northern Damariscotta is actually, it's the Google Earth town boundary is incorrect, and it makes it look like it's in Noblesboro, but actually the line goes right there and skirts over. So wish they wouldn't use Google Earth, or maybe download a different file to show the true borders, but there's definitely still some inaccuracies within that map. And 97 total unserved from this area, and then within the red there was 2, and we'll see that on the next page. I'll skip down 2 pages and we'll do Newcastle first, since you guys are all Newcastle. And Alan will obviously go over this tomorrow, but we've got on the right side here total mileage within the town 52 miles, and to get everybody hooked up there would be 36 new miles. And then they've got potential subscribers within each of their areas. So they've got 374 premises covered under their fiber network currently. Oops. And then they've got an additional 31 that they're serving that does not have spectrum at all. Within the spectrum area, 691. And towns unserved, 97 within their area, and 2 unserved within the consolidated area. And that's broken down to show potential subscriber locations per mile, 18 on the unserved portion. Continuing on. I'm not positive as to what delineates the overlash only versus strand and overlash.
What is overlash?
Overlash is when they attach their fiber to their existing phone lines.
Oh, okay.
And then I don't know what the extra strand is, an extra $5,000 per mile. And I don't know what the difference is off the top of my head. but that comes up to within the spectrum alone area, 598,000, and amongst the unserved within Tidewaters area of 82,000 over on this area, and then 7,700 for consolidated. And let's see, they've estimated make ready per pole in the consolidated area of $4,092. Pulling up a couple more things here. This is the amount that they obviously want to highlight themselves because this is what they've spent on customer hookups already within areas, 373,000, I believe, or maybe that's just the total amount for every single. Hard to say. It might refer to the 33% of the total subscribers within that area.
I think that red, Evan, was, or pink, whatever the color it is, was supposed to be future investment that they were going to do.
I think it might include, I think it's, yeah,
in
I
addition
think-
to everything else.
I think it might be the total for everybody existing in that area. And then if you shift to the right, it's the same amount of what it would cost for basically customer hookups for every different section.
It seemed to me to just be a fluff number that really
Yeah.
didn't help us, and to
It
try to make
really-
them look good.
Yeah, it was a real cheerleading moment for themselves that's how much they
For
were
sure.
willing to spend, or however you want to look at it. Below the subtotals of the construction costs, that's where they've put together all these pieces into one area: admin, legal, project inspection fees, engineering fees, and contingencies, which adds another considerable amount depending on what section you're looking into. But the total construction cost to go to all the places that aren't served by fiber in Newcastle is 2.1 million and another 8,000 on top, $2,108,740.
And
You
of
said that
course,
so smoothly.
yeah. Well, and I'll note here that obviously it's, there's room to question that, whether or not the 40% take rate is too low when they're competing with Spectrum, with their fiber. That's one way, or one thing. Whether or not they include the admin overhead in there is another area that maybe in negotiations we can talk about as well. So it's a very high number, but maybe it could actually be reduced some through discussions of talk. It may not be as real as they think it is, I guess is my point.
Right, and they're obviously estimating very conservatively on their part, I
Right.
think. I'm gonna go back to the Damariscotta page. So 36 new fiber miles in Newcastle, excuse me, full project cost of 2.1 million. And then we go back to, if I can, there we go, back to Damariscotta. Newcastle 36, Damariscotta 25 new fiber miles. Damariscotta is wholly within Tidewater, so there's no consolidated area. 103 unserved, 580 in the existing Spectrum cable TV area that don't have access to fiber, and several other areas to look at, but it comes down to a final construction cost of $1,556,744 is what they've come up with.
So then the question is, how do we split that?
Yeah, precisely. Well, let's look at one thing, as I just realized they have it on this slide and I want to make sure they have it on the next. They say in Damariscotta they have 132 existing fiber subscribers, and then I might have missed that on the Damariscotta Newcastle section. 97 fiber customers. So I would have to imagine that if they want to have a better take rate than what they're estimating at 30%, they have to market themselves better from the get-go, because there's plenty of people that would probably switch that don't even know they
Yep.
can switch
Yep.
right off the bat. I've met a few people like that. This next page, kind of is, in my opinion, behind because they've got the unserved people in the green all the way to the right. And the blue sections should say underserved because that's what the new state term is people that have 50 by 10, but they don't have 100, 100. And the 100, 100 is in the yellow, which is the fully served. So that's a little bit behind. It should say underserved. Not that it makes it any less complicated.
Evan, just a question there. You said the
Sure.
green or the blue should be underserved. But
Yep,
if those
that's what it
people
should say.
if those people have access to cable only, they still,
They are
Underserved.
classified for the grant as underserved now. That's the new,
even if they have Spectrum cable?
correct.
Okay.
Because the state definition of served by broadband, there's three delineations. There's everybody under 5010 is unserved.
Mhm.
Everybody over that, but under 100 100 is underserved,
Okay,
which really only comes up in anything on this grant application.
okay.
Clarify one thing. If you
Yep.
have Spectrum cable, and I think if you pay like $69 a month, I think, don't you get 100 by 100, or is 50 by 100 their highest?
You shouldn't. Their upload speeds, because that's the problem with cable. The upload speeds rarely go above like 35
Uh-huh,
megabits on cable, so it's almost impossible
to
to
get
get
100 by.
100 by 100. So that's part of the state strategy to send this money primarily to fiber projects.
Unless you live on Academy Hill Road, off 213.
They've got fast cable over there.
Yes, I had to call a guy with the survey results because I couldn't believe his
Right.
response.
I'm sure. And there's sections where some things like that are doable, and they may have, who knows what they may have for a last link. They might have a fiber link in there somewhere.
Yeah, it's hard to know.
Yeah, that isn't cable.
There's a
you
lot
saying-
going on that corner.
Are you saying, Carol, that between Academy Hill Road and 213, there is a fast cable? That section is a faster cable than other ones?
Correct. There is a resident there I called because I thought he had a typo on his survey.
Hmm.
And
Right.
he just said they were very lucky. They had one of the highest Spectrum packages.
Yeah, it was
He
probably
works for- yeah.
Enterprise or something that's not typically available. You probably have to call up. And were you going to say something, Krista?
I was just gonna clarify that the download could be 300, but
Yep.
the upload, Carol, did you confirm the upload speed with him? Was it was it 100?
I don't know. And this was, almost a year ago. I would have to go back and look at the specific on that, but
Spectrum doesn't have, to my knowledge, any fiber to the home. They do it for some businesses, but with their current network. So my parents have a download speed of 250 megs per second in Woolwich and upload of 10, because that's all they can get through Comcast there. So it's, the fact that like even that person that you talked to might qualify as underserved, Carol, if they
Interesting,
can't
yeah.
get higher than, like Evan said, 35 megabits per second upload.
yeah, and it was they did have Spectrum. I'll be curious now to go back and check, but
Yeah,
I thought it was a typo.
Definitely let us know when you look it up and see what their upload was, because I'm interested because there's always anomalies and whether it's a glitch in the speed testing thing, or maybe they have some special deal worked out on an individual premise. Who knows what they're doing on if you agree to pay $500 a month, you can probably get whatever you want.
Right. Well, and as you know, a lot of people,
Yeah.
The education on this, they're not really sure. We had some people that had no idea
Yep.
what their upload and download was.
I was just going over the Damariscotta results this morning, and we had people that said that they had satellite internet, but their company was Tidewater.
right,
So there's plenty of confusion on that level.
right.
All right. So this has pretty much all of the data that was on that front page, but distilled quite a bit. So you've got in the blue, the total project cost for people that are in a cable area, in green, the total project cost for people that are unserved, which is a lot more helpful to look at. Oops. And same thing down here for Newcastle in the spectrum area, and then unserved, which is pretty dang close, within $11,000 between the two towns. Next page, and this is where I'm kind of, oh, too many. This isn't the easiest thing to click through. There we go.
There we go.
So here's their grant specs, and something that isn't addressed at all is this underserved portion that we just discussed, where underserved is right here, the 50 by 10, but less than 100, 100, and they just have a big question mark under that. And that I don't believe that info's changed from the state in a month. They finalized the grant application on the 12th of January, but they had a draft out before that had that info. So they really haven't done their homework enough on the underserved part to say how much they could get out of that. And
Are you saying that the Tidewater hasn't done their homework? or the
that's
state?
correct.
Okay.
That's correct. And part of why we couldn't also get that is because we didn't have the numbers that are on the first couple pages to add into the data form that I think would have helped at least us figure out what we could ask for the underserved portions. And Krista, you might be able to correct me if I'm wrong on any of that.
Yeah, I guess one of my big questions when I looked at this just a few minutes before this meeting was whether, and none of us have been into the broadband intelligence platform, the grants portal yet with Connect Maine, but whether they could even prove at this point the underserved locations. I don't know if you've looked at the Sewell map, and if that's still the latest up on the Connect Maine.
Yeah, they said, I remember whatever meeting we were in, they said they weren't going to update that.
Yeah, and so it's possible that they had some, I guess we don't know necessarily what, here, I'm looking at the Sewell map right now. I want to be able to use an address like Tom's, or something like an address that this committee knows would qualify as underserved, but that is very hard data to have come up with necessarily. I'm not sure, Evan, even what if I can recall whether, I guess you had, whether the work that this committee did was really just focused on those DSL areas and the unserved, for when we sent that data over to both Tidewater and.
Yep,
and
that was just DSL.
So I
Or
guess
what I
my
sent to the state,
question,
rather.
yeah, is just whether they have the data needed to get any funding for underserved areas.
Sure. And that would
rely
be
on Spectrum require sending accurate data, which they don't do.
Right. And that would be E911 addresses is what you're saying.
Yep, I guess so. So, I mean, yeah, it's a question for Tidewater. It's a key question for Tidewater. Do they have any ability to prove the underserved, which we know exists? I mean, again, looking back over Newcastle's speed test data and all we don't know. The problem is we don't know with those Spectrum customers whether we know that if it's Spectrum territory, if there is no DSL, that they can't get 100 megabits upload, but is that proven anywhere in the maps is the big question.
Yeah, and I wasn't aware if that was something that the company or the communities would need to prove, or it was just a rough number and then that would go into the formula.
Yeah, hopefully that.
Hopefully that.
Yeah.
And that was part of the data form, and the only number that sticks out in my head is that there needs to be a $700 per subscriber commitment within the grant. So then if we figure it's 200, that's 140,000. So if between the towns and the company, I believe there'll be 140,000 for, which is, I think, well, this is just for Damariscotta, so I can't say. But hopefully we'll know more tomorrow on this section anyway. So for now, these grant request numbers are, to me, a big question mark because of this question mark on the second line on both sections. They could be higher and should be higher.
Or it could be a best case scenario,
Right.
depending on how many people, how many grant requests are in there, so.
Evan, are you thinking of trying to clarify that before tomorrow night's meeting or after?
I have no hope of getting a good answer out of them because in my mind, if I can do it quicker than they can, then they're in big trouble. And they've had a month and they've had the numbers. So we're sitting here now. We finally have what they're calling the numbers with, a day before the meeting. So it's a big question mark. But I'm going to look at it tonight on the data form and see what else we can figure out and go through and add in the data that we were missing before.
Mhm.
They've added, go ahead.
How much discussion tomorrow night do you think there'll be amongst the selectmen relative to town shares of the world?
That's a good question.
I don't think there should be any discussion. There should be questions asked of Tidewater, but those, talking about the share should probably be offline or among the boards without Tidewater there. Yeah.
Okay.
But obviously it needs to be addressed clearly. And this is what really gets me riled up when they start at 50-50. And of course, they didn't even disclose their revenue projections. If they're going to make 100% of the money, maybe they should contribute more than 50% of the cost,
Right.
is my opinion. And that would be certainly a
I know
negotiating
Bristol, I don't
status and
think
statement that
contributed a
we'll
lot.
make. So.
Bristol, I got their financials. They put in 50,000 from a grant with their original application from a foundation as a commitment. And then since then they've used their ARPA money, 100,000, I think last year, and another 100,000, I think this year.
Mhm.
But they've also got, I'd have to look it up again, but I believe it was around 100 miles of unfibered road. Whereas here we're talking about 70. So it is and they've got obviously different financials down there because there's so many seasonal
True.
households where what is the real market capture there?
Evan, back to the $100,000, there was an anonymous donation in Bristol. So I don't know.
Yeah, and that could have fed into it quite a bit as well.
According to
Yeah.
an article. I did
Yeah.
find that information on Academy Hill Road, in case you're interested.
Go ahead.
So to answer that question, so they stated they had 378 download, but to your point, 8.5 upload.
That sounds pretty, yep. That sounds as expected.
And good news, I think. I'm looking at the Sewell map right now and everything. And I'm going to go to Academy Hill Road since you just mentioned that.
Do you want to share your screen?
Sure. Yeah, I'm not making my way around it very nicely. Yes, but I'll share my screen. Although you'll have to stop sharing yours. Actually, it says that you've disabled participant screen sharing.
Yes.
Sewell map, that's a new term. I haven't heard that before.
What does
Well,
that mean?
Yeah, it's the all right, let me know when it's good, Evan.
I'm trying to, okay. Okay. Right. All right, I believe you're good. Let me know if you're not.
Yep, I'm good. I'll make this a little bigger. So this is just where I'm getting to it from, but the Connect Main uses it is using a new platform for this, starting now for this grant round, but it's not a public map yet. The only public map they have available was this old one, which they know hasn't gotten the latest data to update it, such as like some of the corrections that this committee sent regarding some of the areas that were marked as blue.
We don't see a
blue-
map,
I
Krista.
don't have a map. I have a request for a check or cash advance for
Oh, dear.
Lincolnville.
Oh, no, so sharing the wrong, well, that's embarrassing. Hold on. I shared the wrong desktop. Desktop 2, let's try it again. All right, this time. No,
Coming up. Still
map.
waiting. There it is.
Ah.
Yep,
okay.
perfect.
Map. All right, well, what I got to this through just Connect Main's website, the broadband availability map, which Connect Main knows doesn't represent actual services. So you had an opportunity to send them updated data, which they got, especially regarding some of the blue areas that shouldn't have been blue. Blue indicates 100, fiber, basically. It's at least people can get 100 over 100, but the green is, and I don't know where my key went.
Yeah, it's in the either in that I or in the other thing.
Yeah, there's the key. So less than 100 over 100, but it means that people could get up to that, which we know with Spectrum is not, or with cable is not the case because of the upload. But I was just looking at, I bounced over to your speed test data from the Newcastle survey and just picked out some of the these Spectrum ones, like here, for example. Any Spectrum that had low speed, we just know that even though, Spectrum will say that they offer 100 over 20, that depending on how far down that road you are, your speed might be much lower. So the good news is that Connect Main will recognize all of the addresses on any of these green portions as underserved. And so I guess just still my question to Tidewater would be, do they have the E911 data?
Right.
Or does the committee need to, skedaddle to do some work to go through, like hold this map next to a spreadsheet and make sure that every Bunker Hill, address up to that point. Again, this was data that they got corrected, hopefully. But every one of those little green roads, you want to make sure that you have the total number of premises, which will be a lot. If we zoom out of Newcastle, if you had every single one of those, they could be applied toward the grant. So I'll stop sharing now.
And then the only other thing I would mention is that they said they weren't going to update the map, but they'll have the internal data.
Yeah.
So it's not a good map from the first place, and it's not going to be updated either.
Yeah.
But it's the starting point.
Yeah,
more or
I'd
less.
say if you're using this map, which again, it's right off the, I'll post it in the chat, but if you're using this map to try to make sure that you can get, be asking for a higher amount from Connect Main to help for this project, then just focus in on those green
Would it
roads.
be advantageous to ask Peggy what the scenario is for that at Connect to Main before we even ask Tidewater what kind of info they have
What do you mean scenario?
for if the state requires E911 data, or it's just going to be
Oh,
a plug and play with the amount of subscribers that they assume have cable access, I guess.
yeah, it would be worth noting that question down and asking it, maybe first checking with Tidewater
Okay.
on, any specific information they might have on that, but then asking Peggy.
Okay. Let's see. Do you guys want to go back to the PowerPoint and keep looking? Is there I'll pull it up anyway.
So Evan, these are the numbers that were given are the worst case scenario. Is that right?
Which numbers?
Well, the 2.2
One.
The 2.1 million for
The
Newcastle.
2.1 million. Yeah, I
Yeah.
would say that that's a pretty hefty conservative estimate from their part. I mean, they're building in 10% for engineering, 5% contingency, and then another 2% each for admin, legal fees, and project inspection fees. So
Well, and to say nothing to David's point about what they're going to make on this,
exactly.
which should carry a hell of a lot of weight, I would think, because they're
I
not
would,
doing
yeah,
this out of
all of
goodness.
the way. I'm with you.
Yeah, I mean, they're not doing this out of the goodness of their heart. This is a money-making scheme for them, and so
Exactly.
It's a
They're gonna
place to
have-
start, I think, and the income isn't just from internet services. They provide television services as well. So once they have a better system, more people are going to buy that. I think the potential for them is amazing, but I understand them trying to seek as much help as possible with their costs. And even if this is a conservative estimate, we really need to work with them to get
50%
that down
seems
to
way
a
out of line.
realistic number.
Yeah. At 50%, you should get 50% of all income for 10 years. That type of thing. But let's not even consider that, that's
Right.
just a joke. Let's not
Right.
consider that as a real thing.
And it's not where we're at this moment, we're just listening
Right.
and we can take it back to the boards and really talk about the plan. And their next step, I think sort of grabs that, except for, I think maybe we ought to be developing a memorandum of understanding much sooner than September or July.
Right. And we'll get down, I'll pull that up on the schedule that they put on the last year of how they see the two phases. So the first phase being the grant application, and then the second phase being the cable overbuild.
So how does a two-phase approach sync up with Connect Main?
I think in terms of the grant award, they will fulfill their obligation to run fiber to all the unserved people, anybody that would be covered as a recipient under the grant application within the timeline, which I think is a year after the award or whatever it is. Of course, there's probably tools for people to get extensions or appeals or whatever because of the lack of supply and the lack of manpower that there's going to be out there.
Mhm.
And then I guess we'll have to see how they explain the two-phase solution themselves tomorrow.
Yeah,
But
I would think the boards would want to have that understanding in place.
Yep.
When they commit to funding, not after the fact. So,
agreed.
But
because
the application would include both phases. We assuming that?
Well, that's the interesting question. So that's kind of like what we were just talking about with the underserved people, because
Yeah.
we don't know how much money they're going to ask, and they have a big question mark on that slide.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of if it's a long stretch of, let's just say it's a long stretch of road with only 5 houses on it that's in between all of your unserved completely premises, but you're just going to include those people because they've got cable, but they're not as dense. I don't know how ideally they want to structure it.
Mhm.
There's more questions there than there are answers for sure. Let's see. So that's all on the PDF that they sent, which should be the same information on. I'll just click through this. This is the, oops, I didn't share my screen.
Yeah, they're both the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's safe to say there then.
Was
I'll
Damariscotta not invited to this call? What's up with that? Just,
I think we didn't plan on having one, and then it was the matter of are we or aren't we going to get the thing? So the information that Tidewater sent over, so I don't think they anticipated having a meeting today, which is usually only Steven in the first place, because I think Andrea's at work, and then the other guys are usually doing cable TV things.
okay.
I'm going to pull up the results from the Damariscotta survey to include tomorrow. So my other thing that I just discussed with David was gonna take the lead on describing what the committees have done and what the data has been collected and from the Newcastle point of view. And then I was going to do the Damariscotta point of view of what info we've gained for community support and who's lacking and what, when, where, why, dollars, any information we can give to people to say that this is a worthwhile thing. And I'll show you guys a couple of the things that I'm going to pull out, and then definitely share anything that comes to mind, and I'll try and include it on a PowerPoint tomorrow that we'll do before Tidewater's section at the meeting. Couple things that I thought were really important on the Damariscotta survey. Under education, if I find it. Well, let's start from work from home. Out of the respondents, we had 93, 58% of the people that responded work from home. And about less than 40% are part-time, and about 25% are full-time work from home folks. And this one was really telling. Question 10, would you or anyone in your household work from home or work more often from home with better internet speeds? And that was a resounding 42% yes, of more people that would work from home if they had better speeds. And similar attitudes under a question about students. There was roughly, if I add it up real quick, 27%, 28% of the respondents had pre-K to 8 high school or college post-secondary students in the home. And 44% of those people that had students said that their internet speed negatively impacted their student during the pandemic. So pretty telling there. And there's some other things that I'll pull. Oh, just about 80% of people are streaming. Under these training and classes that we would want to advertise to people, a lot of people want to know how to stream, which you can probably deduce they want to get away from cable services, and they probably don't know how to set up a Netflix or YouTube TV or every other subscription there is, and they want to know more about it. And then another big one was just personal cybersecurity, because we know there's so many people that fall into predatory things all the time, whether it's email or what it is. So I think that that's on people's mind, and we had a pretty even spread of how to use devices, skills for business, social media, basic internet skills, a handful of people for each section that would be interested in classes or training.
My takeaway was the response seemed to be kind of low, but the people that did respond wanted better service. Is that close?
Yep. And I think you guys had a resounding, I can't remember on your survey if it was 200 something to 0, but we had 89 to 3 for people that support the town having universal access. And out of those 3 people that said no, one was from South Bristol. So
Taking
That
care of.
happens.
we'll send that to them. They can figure it out.
Yeah, that's the message that needs to be
Right.
communicated tomorrow
The
night.
only thing with a higher margin than that is the Clean Water Act, realistically.
It's important too.
The 96% to 3. Satisfaction rates, I just gave people 3 options. I'm satisfied, it could be better, or I'm not very happy. And over 50%, about, what is this? 77% of people were either it could be better, or they don't like it at all. There's scenario. And then I've pulled the speed test data too. I kind of just wrote it down, and I don't have my paper in front of me, but I had people do the speed test on the Broadband Coalition website, and then they came back here and then wrote their numbers down for the most part. And we've got pretty similar results from the speed test map, and it was between 40 and 60% of the people that take the test have speeds that qualify as unserved. So just another, that's why the state came up with the funding, because they knew that some people that had cable weren't going to reach the speeds to qualify themselves as unserved versus underserved. And I'm going to try and pull different people's responses when I get there's some sticky ones where we wanted to know more. think that was it. So that's kind of a overview of the Damariscotta survey. I'm sure it had a lot of the similarities to the one you guys did.
Well, the biggest thing is that people that don't have a problem weren't as motivated to fill out the application or the survey. But
Right.
but Newcastle, we really did have quite a few people that were positive and want to support it, even though they had satisfactory internet service.
Yep. And there's definitely some misconception with some people that I've talked to in Damariscotta that don't realize that Tidewater does both DSL and
Mhm.
fiber, depending on where you are. And that's partially because they are LCI when they're fiber and they're Tidewater when they're the telephone. So they need to get a little swoosh or figure out what their logo or their name is. I think would really help them out a lot.
Yeah.
But also, losing my train of thought here.
Well, and Tidewater advertises, I've seen it in a couple spots, they advertise that they 98% of, or close to that for both Damariscotta and Newcastle have access to fiber.
Right.
So.
And that's exactly the problem, is that we know that that's not right. And a lot of people, I've talked to at least a couple people that said, everybody's got fiber access. I'm like, no, they don't. But I understand it's advantageous for them to sell that
Right.
viewpoint possibly. But Tom wrote in the chat, we should definitely tell the selectmen and LCI that we are in touch with Axiom to show we're reaching out for more info. And I'm definitely not against it.
So is
makes
that the
sense.
point of Stephen's PowerPoint? Because it looks like that's what he's talking about, is more of a community-owned thing.
I think
and-
that that's the way that, if all you have to respond to, so that's the second portion, is that I want to send this to the select boards so they don't get sticker shock. And I'm sure you've had communication, David, with your board, but I think I need to do more to get the Damariscotta folks have advanced awareness. And I think we're only going to have 3 tomorrow night unless anything has changed.
My Newcastle people, David, are coming. Do you know?
How many?
Yeah, how many
I
selectmen?
believe they all are, maybe with one question mark.
Okay.
So
That's pretty good.
Um,
Go ahead.
Hey, yeah, I might have missed whether there was a response to Tom's text about, in touch with Axiom, letting them know. But I think that when it comes to that, you've already touched on this, but that roughly $2 million figure, it does tend to be in almost every community I've been in, like it's around $2 million to do fiber to the home for a 100% build, but that usually, right, like it's somewhere within that. And if the town is owning the network, they are generating revenue off of that. It's a revenue generating asset for the town. So certainly, on both ends, whether you're talking to LCI and saying, well, we can't be expected to contribute, the type of investment that we would if we were going to own it and generate the revenue. But it's also worth, sharing with the select board that no matter what way we try to solve this problem, that is a critical problem to solve in the 21st century, it's going to cost this much money, and right.
This is the
It's a
time
matter
to
of
do
how
it
we're-
rather than wait. This is the one really good open window.
So my discussions are on with the other select board members in Newcastle is what are we buying for whatever money we put in? And if we look at it, we're buying that extra 200 feet on somebody's driveway to get them, hooked up. There's value to it. If we're buying, say, a hotspot at the town hall or free internet service for the town or something, whatever we can negotiate for. There's ways to justify a certain amount of money. It just depends on what you get for it. And more than just Tidewater doing probably what it would do otherwise if it had the cash flow. So we have to focus on that going forward, is what are the towns getting for their money?
Did we get any information yet on what Tidewater's proposed build out was going to be for the future? So we're talking now about what we're looking for, what we want to buy, but do we have information from them yet on what they were proposing and having their plans for build out?
From Damariscotta's point of view, they intended to probably in the same time frame in the next 2 years have a pretty good section built out of overbuilding the cable. But I would hazard a guess that they would be able to say, oh, well, that's within the 50% of what we say we're going to contribute anyway. So yeah, we haven't over broadcasted ourselves yet.
Okay, so that would be part of the negotiation piece?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they want to steer the ask, I think, tomorrow, because I'm thinking about it as I say it, but I hope they have enough foresight to realize that the towns aren't going to put up $1.5 million between the two of them. So I thought that they had some stone whats to include the 50% figure on anything, but
And they
that's
were
just my
acting
feeling.
like they were stretching by doing that,
Right,
which I got a kick out of, but
which they've got the figure on, and I'll pull this up, if I haven't lost it anywhere. If you go and look at, I'll go to the Newcastle one. When you look at the amount that they're writing down for, this is the basically customer hookup figure is 414,600, and that's just within the cable areas. Here, I'll make that a little bit bigger, Tim. I can see you're squinting a little.
Thank you.
Yep. They're acting like that's just part of doing business, no matter where you are. If you build a gas station, you're going to put in the gas pumps. So that's what that 414,000 is, the drops and the router hookup, the optical network, what do they call it? Optical electronics. That's just all each customer hookup, and they estimate that's 1,500 per customer. So just when you take off that 500,000 right off the top of what they should be doing, no matter what station it is, that's already bringing you down quite a bit if you take $500,000 off of 2.1. And it's just how they create their own narrative for what they're doing. And same thing in Damariscotta, 348,000. That's just in the cable area, and then 123 of the unserved people. Well, they're only going to spend that if the customer wants to get hooked up, and that's part of doing business. So you take that 471 off of the 1.5 million, and all of a sudden it looks a lot differently.
Good point.
Yeah, I think they're probably realizing that even though they cover the whole town in cable, in fiber, they're not, the way they've got it set up cost-wise, there's probably no advantage for somebody to switch off of Spectrum. Quite frankly, they need to.
Right
need to
now, and
come
I
up
think
with a
that's
plan to-
exactly, they've priced themselves and their service to basically be dead on. So that way, I think they figure, well, if people are going to switch to us now, that it's pretty comparable. Once they sweeten the pot a little, they should be able to attract X amount more customers.
Hey, Krista, is 40% market share pretty normal from what you've seen from other analysis? Because I think that's what Axiom, what number they used too, didn't they? But is that normal?
As
Or-
far as what they could get specifically in those overbuild areas.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so unpredictable, and it could be, it depends. This is where actually having a really effective committee and doing community level engagement or community marketing instead of just relying on the company, certainly instead of relying on LCI's marketing, which is not, doesn't have a lot going from what I've seen. So I don't know. I think it's a very hard number to pinpoint right now because it hasn't been seen. It's yet to be proven. Mark, even Axiom, where they're trying to, they're tending to see people subscribe at higher levels than that. Like I think that it's just,
And
it
they're
hasn't been
also
proven
priced
yet.
more competitively and start off with 100
Yep, yep,
service.
So it's conservative, it's a conservative estimate.
right.
We-
At
we
this,
hope-
point,
we hope.
yeah, I think if Tidewater keeps their current prices and, required landline and yeah, offers the packages of 50 over 10 and 100 over 20, they're not even gonna get that in terms of the overbuild,
And
areas.
that's a part of their woe is me thing. It's going to be so expensive and we're never going to make our money back. And that's part of their narrative to say we need more money. All within.
Yeah.
But the only thing I would add is that I think Mark said in before that the first year they usually figure on 30% of a take rate because you're new, and then gradually moving up within the next 2 to 5 years. And then I think his typical goal was like 60 to 70% once you're established and people recognize who you are, and a few people of your friends have tried the service or what have you, word of mouth type of thing.
Yeah, and he hasn't even gotten to that point with any of his builds yet, so.
Good, yeah.
It's
But it's
just-
also been like, what's his longest one, I guess, or what network's been on the longest?
Yeah,
Probably some down east places, I guess.
yeah, except they had a pretty bad reputation there because they started out as a wireless company.
Hmm.
And the wireless wasn't very good as it isn't.
Is this
But-
Axiom?
Yeah, they started out as a wireless provider, but so yeah, I just can't think of any community that would be necessarily a proof of concept yet as far as overbuilding cable and showing people switch over. Basically, people switch because of price. So as long as they can offer,
Right.
even as a lower price, that Spectrum can't come right back and say, never mind, we'll make it $20 lower. Then yeah, that's the only way they'll get their subscribers off of Spectrum.
Yeah, it
for the
doesn't
I
most
would
part.
hope that since it's in their own backyard, that LCI would promote there being the local option and service and, that type of things that would, I would hope, boost that number up over the 50% mark, but
I still think they've got to do what Spectrum
Yeah.
and other ones do, is just give them a first year at a much lower price and get them changed, and when it's going to switch.
We also know that LCI has a stack of applications. Our community, about 16 applications went in August of 2019. And we don't ever hear back from any of them. on
Evan,
them.
didn't they say overall they have like 150 that they have in the queue that they just can't get to?
It was quite a
And
large number.
That's just Newcastle, or is that through their whole?
I thought
don't-
that was through their whole network
Okay.
when
Yeah.
they said that. But I'm sure a large chunk is from Newcastle by the sounds of it.
So what do we see as the process tomorrow night and the end of the meeting? What's the, is it presentations by Dave and Evan, and then?
Followed
whatever
by
you want
Alan
them?
and Randall or whoever shows up.
And
with them.
we're obviously not going to negotiate with them, publicly. But how do we see the wrap up going? Next steps?
I see this as informational. Everybody finally gets a good round figure in their head of what it's going to cost to build out the whole project. And for the selectmen to understand that it's going to take at least some type of solid financial commitment, which was kind of a question mark that I had from the Damariscotta side, that I've talked to Matt a little bit. And they've got their special town meeting on the 16th. And they've got hold on, let me pull it up here.
Talk to Matt before his email or after?
This is, I think, been in the moves for a little bit, but we haven't had any rough figures to base it on. So there's have an Article 3 on 16th during their special town meeting to see what sum the town will vote to appropriate for the following. They've got 5 key things here, and one of them is support for the Newcastle-Damariscotta Broadband Committee, and the selectmen recommendation was $12,500. And I'd obviously like to see that doubled. There's at least two big question marks where where that money should come from in my mind. And one of them is building a stepping stone, the stepping stone housing. They want money to build a tiny house, and then the Chamber of Commerce wants money to support workforce development training.
Are
So I
both of those allowed under opera? I know
The
broadband is.
the housing, I think that you can justify through it, but that's, I'm also I'm just a dub from Wiscasset, so what do I know about what the Treasury wants? But the housing, I think that they can get away with, but the workforce training, I think, is a lot more hazy. And I have a lot of questions as to what exactly are they doing that's not already being done in terms, there's a lot of programs going on, and I don't know exactly what 10,000 would support there that broadband couldn't help at a household level.
Well, I hope the residents will understand that maybe that although they're voting of allocating some of those funds to the broadband, but that doesn't necessarily need to be the limit of their
Right.
ongoing
But, yeah,
contributions or whatever.
Just being that this is at least a good place to start for getting the unserved people covered, and then seems to be the way that it's going to go with funding, just not going to be able to get another 50 or however many thousand that the towns want to commit with a timetable. This is the easiest checkpoint.
So do you think the select board of Damariscotta will change their recommendation after tomorrow's information?
I don't know if they'll be able to do that, because I think that the special town meeting warrant's already been printed, but it's open-ended. So it seems to me that once the town gathers to vote, that they can adjust the number themselves.
You can't adjust that within the meeting. Now, if somebody gets up and said, I want to change that.
Are
12,000
you
to
asking
25?
or telling me? That's what I'm trying to figure out, is the way it's worded, to see what the sum the town will appropriate for the following. So it's not capped at
Mhm.
a certain number.
And it's just thrown out there. So it could,
Yep.
somebody could change it. Yeah.
And that's
Although
what,
if you change it, that may affect what the other ones, in other words, they have a certain maximum amount that they can,
yep,
that they're dealing with. So,
it's for Damariscotta, it's 227,000 and change.
yeah. We have what, 175 or something like
Like
that
that.
in Newcastle?
So to answer Tim's question more directly, is the Newcastle Select Board is meeting Monday next. So we'll digest what we hear tomorrow, and then I'm sure there'll be big discussion on the following Monday night. So if any of you show up to that meeting and make comments, that would be helpful as well. That's on the evening of the 14th at 7 o'clock at the community room.
Okay.
And if you know any Damariscotta people, because I'm starting and organizing, I've sent quite a few emails to get them to the Damariscotta meeting on the 16th. Anybody that's a Damariscotta voter.
Is the meeting tomorrow night, 6 o'clock over in Newcastle?
Yes.
Okay, what I thought.
That wasn't on their website. Might have gone on this morning. Newcastle was right on the money. She got ours up very quickly, but Damariscotta, I did not see the joint meeting posted over the weekend. They might have done it this morning.
It's a good question. I haven't been checking.
Is
And
that link virtual? I mean, where's the link? Like, is that on the site or the virtual
For the
link?
meeting, haven't made the Zoom link for it yet,
Okay.
but we'll do that after this meeting. Because I think most of the select boards will be there in person, and then there will obviously be quite a few people that want to attend via Zoom, whether it's distance or weather tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or COVID. There's 100 reasons to not show up in real life anymore. But that's, yeah, I think we'll have hopefully a little bit more clarity as to how Tidewater sees the project going tomorrow night. And then within the next 10 days after that, we'll have a clearer view of what commitment the towns can put together.
Who's going to be there from Tidewater, Alan, and anybody else?
I'm not sure if Randall will
Roger?
be there or who else will be there or anybody.
I'm sure it'll be at least Alan, because he's the one doing the presentation. And actually, there would be benefit to not have Randall there, because he doesn't focus as much as Alan does on the presentation.
Yep.
Outline.
So with that, if you guys keep sending me, you've sent some good emails with some suggestions on what to include on the presentation for at least taglines to add for data from the surveys and personal quotes and any other comments that, we've heard. So I'll include that in the presentation tomorrow.
Actually, I'll also send you copies of letters we received and a petition that we
I've got at
received.
least a couple of those, but yeah, love to get them again.
They
'cause
were
they're-
probably included in our first grant
in that-
application,
yeah,
but
in that
Good.
Dropbox file. Yep.
And you've got Tim's digest of the survey that Newcastle did.
yes.
That we have as well. So be good tomorrow to get everything on record as to how the community feels and what the actual costs are going to be to make it all happen.
And we have been reminded about confidential information that cannot be shared. The list that we got from SurveyMonkey has a lot of confidential personal information. And that survey analysis that Tom did shows up on the internet. If you Google, it comes up on the internet.
Well, I think it's all part of public record once it's,
Well, there's nothing in the survey that says that it's confidential. Alan did
yeah,
note on here about
and
not
that's,
a public document
and
Right.
that's more of a,
Until tomorrow.
yeah.
until
more-
tomorrow, right?
Right. More of a friendly thing more than anything, because if
Right.
anybody
Right.
puts in a request, we'd eventually have to get it to them.
Right.
Right.
But we will be providing these to the select boards this evening or tomorrow morning, so they'll have a chance to see them ahead of time.
I would hope so.
That would be good, right?
More than a half hour.
Mhm.
Yep, much like this group, it was only 3 months and I can't say from December they've really crafted too much different, other than probably just adding in a little bit more contingency and
And I do note that we actually still haven't actually seen the feasibility study that Casco Bay Advisors did. This is just the end result that Tidewater created after seeing that.
And we have not been asked for those funds yet, so Tidewater is still having ownership of that feasibility study.
Last time I checked was a few weeks ago. They hadn't asked for their money. I don't know if in the interim they've asked for that money.
I don't know about Damariscotta either.
Well, actually, all the funds came to Newcastle, so
Okay, yep,
they would have to get our share, the two-town share from Newcastle.
gotcha.
So, but I don't know if the feasibility study would help us in our analysis anyways. It may help us get a better sense of if their numbers were conservative or what they based it on. But I don't know if in the long run, is that helpful or not anyways.
Yeah, I think one of the couple of things that would probably be on it that Casco Bay has done before is having a full project price for a municipal owned structure. They usually do all the road segments and what the footage is of where there isn't fiber and where there's unserved people. I have to hesitate every time I say unserved because it's under and on. But anyway, and then they also include that's the majority of it, is
Okay.
that data is the gap analysis fully for where there isn't fiber and price tags for a municipally owned thing, which usually is just adding on to all the pole access fees and replacing poles.
Well, it
Well,
I
sounds
think-
like then it would be helpful to actually see that report.
Right. Oh,
Since
and
we
the,
paid for
yeah,
half of it, we should
right.
get that. Okay.
So another thing to ask tomorrow.
When will that be delivered?
Evan, we're meeting next week, right? Scheduled to meet next week. Is that correct?
I don't know if did we schedule it? I can't remember. I think I've got it on my Zoom, but I don't know if we confirmed what we were doing because everything's just been changing.
And then
So
we
it's-
can talk more about the grant at that
Yep.
meeting.
I think we can, yeah, we'll plan for next week, which is the 14th. Happy Valentine's Day at 3. And I believe I already have that on here, but let me just make sure.
And Tidewater has what,
I've got that on my
95%
calendar.
of the grant information comes from them anyway, right?
Essentially, yep.
Well, that's why they committed, like, they'll be writing a good portion of it
Right.
in their
And
next.
a lot of the,
section.
yeah, a lot of the portions are on the data that they gave us today. Subscriber per miles, and then all of the other pieces of info used to score it.
So do you need anything else from us for tomorrow night? Sounds like you and David have everything organized and information that you need for that, or are you still needing information for your presentation?
I feel comfortable. If you guys think of anything else of just unexplored viewpoints that we haven't gone over yet or emailed about yet, if you get what I'm saying, as far as I feel like the surveys have done a pretty good job. It's just pulling out the data and say, look here, 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 and here. These are
Right.
the glaring spots where things could be better, and this will help alleviate a lot of issues and create more opportunity. Not just that
Mhm.
we're telling a story.
Well, showing resident demand, that's going to be important for any spending.
And the-
Well, the revenue that the towns will receive from rentals and all sorts of things that we've heard about, not just residents who live here year round, but renters and the money that gets spent in town and taxes. And I mean, it is a
Yeah.
huge opportunity.
the quickest and dirtiest way that I can justify, at least for Damariscotta spending it, is over on Nissen Farm Lane. It's all pretty well constructed houses that are
Mhm.
valued probably over 300,000 every single one of them, and they never buried telecom conduit. So
Nope.
they've got another however many lots, 6 or 8 or however many vacant house lots, and why would you buy one?
Without access.
Yeah, unless you're
Well, they
unless you
have
love.
Spectrum.
They
They
don't.
have Spectrum. Well, I have heard differently. I know of a home that I was told has Spectrum
I
hookup.
bet I know the same home, and I bet I know how they're getting it. They're getting it from a neighbor's router through the woods.
Oh, gee.
But we'll keep all of the names and
Nobody
places
does
a
that, do
secret.
they?
Nobody
I'll
does
se-
that.
I'll send you a secret email, Evan.
I bet it does. Might it relate to boats in the email?
Pardon me?
Does the email have to do with a boat?
No, I'm not aware of a boat.
Okay, then our secret code language continues. But there may be somebody that's doing something, but they have no conduit for the place. And to my knowledge, everybody there just has DSL or satellite. So they may have found a workaround and they're doing something, but I don't think it's conventional.
Or they gave a BS story to the person that told me.
That very well could be.
Mhm.
Cool beans. Well, I'll plan on seeing you guys all there tomorrow. Meetings at 6 at the Damariscotta meeting room, and I'll get the Zoom out after this meeting, and we'll also get the video recording of this for everybody that wasn't here.
Sounds
Okay,
like a
and-
plan. All right.
And you have class tonight, right?
It's all over the place. I'm supposed to, tonight's
Wow.
asynchronous. So public budgeting and finance, which works perfect for what we're doing today.
There you go.
Okay, guys.
Fortunately, nobody has
Yeah.
budgeted for this, so
Yeah,
we're gonna
yeah.
have to figure out where to find the money.
Hopefully
Yeah.
after this class, I'll be able to find out how.
There
Yeah,
you
right.
go. All
Is the
right.
Damariscotta
Okay.
meeting room in the old Kastner School? Is that
Yep.
where they?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Yep, you can walk in from the School Street side and walk up the steps and to the left, or you can come in through the back door and
it.
go
Thank
straight
you.
through.
Thanks, guys.
All right, look forward to seeing you all outside of the digital square.
Seeing you then. Bye.
Thank you, Evan. Oh,
Look, the
there
baby
is.
showed up.
Hey. Hey, he's gonna be a year old pretty soon.